Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at a really interesting, kind of controversial event, actually. It's all about this gesture Elon Musk made at a rally for Trump after he got back into office. It's crazy how a simple thing like that can cause so much debate, especially when it comes from someone like Musk, So we're going to be checking out all the different reactions from right-wing groups all the way to people who aren't really on either side, trying to figure out what really went down,
Yeah, it really is wild how one little gesture can get blown up like that. I mean, especially now with the internet and everything, things get analyzed and shared so quickly.
Exactly. So, okay, picture this. Trump's back in the White House. There's this huge rally, and Musk is right there on stage.
Yeah.
And he does this thing where he puts his hand on his chest, then extends his arm out towards the crowd with his palm down. Kind of like, well, some people online are saying it looked like a Sieg Heil salute.
Yeah.
And get this, he actually does it again later on in his speech.
Wow. Yeah, that's a pretty serious comparison. Definitely raises some questions about what he meant by it. But before we jump to any conclusions, let's remember that Musk and Trump are pretty tight. Musk really went all in for Trump during his time in office.
Right. He was a big supporter, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah. Big time. He not only backed Trump financially, but he was also involved in picking the cabinet members. Yeah. And don't forget, he's the head honcho over at the Department of Government Efficiency, which they nicknamed DOGE, by the way.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember that.
And on top of all that, you've got Trump openly supporting Musk's whole Mars colonization thing.
So, yeah, they're definitely pretty close.
Yeah.
Knowing all that, how do you think people reacted to this gesture, especially the far-right groups?
Well, it definitely got a lot of attention online, especially within those far-right circles. It seemed like some of them took it as a sign of validation.
Yeah, I was looking at some of those reactions, and wow, some of them are pretty intense.
Yeah, for sure. You've got Christopher Pohlhaus, for example. He is the leader of that neo-Nazi group, the Blood Tribe. He shared the clip of the gesture with a lightning bolt emoji. And then there's Christopher Hood, who founded NSC 131. It's a white nationalist group. He posted it too with a bunch of thinking face emojis and grinning ones, almost like they were trying to figure out some secret message.
Oh, wow.
And then you've got Andrew Torba, the guy behind Gab, that platform that's known for attracting the far right.
Yeah.
Well, he commented saying, incredible things are happening already, Lil Mao.
Doesn't sound too subtle, does it?
Nope, not at all. It's kind of crazy how such a small gesture can spark such strong reactions.
It really is eye-opening. And it wasn't just those guys either. We saw reactions from other figures connected to extremist views, like Keith Woods, who's been labeled an anti-Semite by the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Right.
He jumped on X, formerly Twitter.
Yeah.
And said, okay, maybe woke really is dead. And then there's Thomas Sewell, an Australian neo-Nazi who called it a Donald Trump white power moment. Even a White Lives Matter chapter thanked Musk and suggested it was somehow tied to their whole Stop White Genocide thing.
It's a lot to process. I mean, these reactions really make you question Musk's relationship with these groups. We know he's shown support for the AfD party in Europe, which is considered far right. And he's also allowed those previously banned white nationalist accounts back on X.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely a pattern.
It is.
And it's not just those specific instances either. Sometimes the things he posts and engages with online, it blurs the lines between his account and those of actual far-right extremists.
You're right.
Remember that whole apology tour he had to do with Israel after he interacted with that anti-Semitic conspiracy theory?
Oh, yeah.
Or how he uses Pepe frogs and those alt-right memes. He even changed his X handle to Kikius Maximus for a while.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It adds another layer to this whole situation. Makes you wonder, was he sending a message to these groups with that gesture? Yeah. Or was he just being Musk?
Yeah, was it intentional or was it just him? Yeah, it's almost like we're trying to read his mind.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out what he was really thinking.
Exactly, and that's what makes this whole thing so fascinating. It's a perfect example of how actions and symbols can be interpreted in so many different ways, especially online. It all comes down to semiotics, the study of signs and symbols and what they mean in this case. That one gesture is like a Rorschach test, where people see what they want to see, projecting their own beliefs and biases onto it.
That's a great point. So on the one hand, we've got this gesture that's got certain far-right groups all riled up. And on the other hand, we've got Musk's history of associating with and promoting those same groups. It's hard to ignore that connection, don't you think?
It is, and it raises a really important question. How much weight should we give to intent versus impact? Even if Musk didn't mean to signal anything to those groups, and that's a big if, the impact is real. His gesture has been adopted and celebrated by people who hold some pretty dangerous ideologies.
Right. It's kind of like that saying, you're judged by the company you keep. If you're always hanging around with people who have certain views, even if you don't say you agree with them, it makes people wonder about what you actually believe.
That's a great analogy. And with Musk, it's not just about who he hangs out with, it's also about how he uses his platform. By letting those banned accounts back on and engaging with extremist content, he's amplifying those voices, making their ideologies seem more normal, whether he means to or not.
That's what makes this whole thing even more interesting. It's not just about one guy and one gesture. It's about a much bigger trend of tech-fueled extremism. We're seeing how online platforms can be used to spread hate, recruit followers, and even organize real-world action.
Absolutely. Technology has given these groups so much power. They can reach more people than ever before.
Yeah.
And they don't have to go through those traditional gatekeepers anymore.
It's scary how easy it is for them to connect with people, especially people who might be vulnerable to their message. That's why this deep dive is so important. It's not just about analyzing one event. It's about understanding the bigger picture, recognizing the dangers of technology when it falls into the wrong hands.
I agree. We can't just sit back and watch this happen. We need to be part of the conversation. Think critically about the information we're taking in and hold those in power accountable.
We need to be informed and aware and make sure we're not accidentally helping to spread these harmful ideologies.
Exactly. We need to remember that technology is just a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or bad. It's up to us, the users, to make sure it's used ethically and responsibly.
So going back to Musk's gesture, do you think it's possible that people just misinterpreted it? He did say, my heart goes out to you after he did it the second time. Maybe he was just trying to show his support in his own kind of awkward way.
It's definitely possible. I mean, we all know he can be a little awkward sometimes, but even if we give him the benefit of the doubt and assume he didn't mean any harm, it doesn't erase the impact.
Right. Like they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Even if he wasn't trying to cause harm, the consequences are still there.
Exactly. Which brings us back to the importance of context. We can't just look at that one gesture by itself. We have to consider his past associations, his online behavior, and how his actions have been received by those extremist groups.
Right. It's like trying to solve a puzzle. We've got all these pieces, the gesture itself, Musk's history, the reactions from different groups, and we're trying to put it all together to see the bigger picture.
And that's the challenge, isn't it? There's no easy answer, no clear-cut conclusion, but just trying to understand, wrestling with these complicated issues, that's what's important.
It makes us think critically, question our own assumptions, and have these tough conversations, even when they're uncomfortable.
Exactly.
It really makes you think about how important it is to be media literate, especially now with the internet and everything. We can't just take in information passively anymore. We need to be active, questioning sources, considering different perspectives, and coming to our own conclusions.
I completely agree. That's one of the biggest takeaways from all of this. Regardless of whether you think Musk's gesture was intentional or not, it shows us just how powerful symbols can be and the responsibility that comes with having a big platform. When information spreads so fast, it's crucial to be mindful of the messages we're sending, even if we don't realize it.
Right. It's like a ripple effect. One small action can have huge consequences.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's not just about Musk himself. It's about tech-fueled extremism, the spread of misinformation, and the challenges of navigating a world where it's getting harder to separate reality from online personas.
It's a lot to wrap your head around, but it's something we all need to be aware of as we spend more and more time online. It's not about blaming anyone. It's about understanding how complex this all is and recognizing the role we each play in shaping the online world.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what do you think is the most important thing our listeners should take away from this whole Musk situation?
I think the most important thing is critical thinking. Don't just take things at face value. Dig deeper. Question what you think you know. And be willing to have tough conversations.
That's so important. And it applies to everything we see online. News articles, social media posts, even podcasts like ours.
Exactly. We should all strive to be informed, engaged, and discerning consumers of information.
Well said. So to our listeners out there, we've given you the facts, the different perspectives, and shown you just how complex this event really is. Now it's up to you to decide what you think. Was Musk's gesture a deliberate message to those far-right groups? Was it just a misunderstanding? Or something in between? How much weight should we give to a single action, especially when it comes from someone like Musk, someone who's known for being controversial? Where do we draw the line between free speech and dangerous endorsements? These are tough questions, but they're worth thinking about.
I agree. There aren't always easy answers, But the process of trying to understand, of thinking critically and reflecting, that's what's valuable.
Exactly. Hopefully this deep dive has given you something to think about and inspired you to keep exploring these important issues. Remember, the future isn't decided by algorithms or billionaires. It's shaped by people like you, people who are willing to engage with these challenging topics and work towards a more informed and equitable society.
Well said.
Until next time, keep asking those tough questions, keep digging deeper, and keep the conversation going.
See you next time.